Good morning, Chip Irwin Aero Marine reporting from New Carlisle, Andy. Not even sure what the name of the airport is. Anyway, it's in New Carlisle, it's in Ohio, it's in USA. And I'm going to give you a wrap-up of the week of the build center in our Dayton build facility. First, we have trailers. We're getting ready for deliveries. We have one of the early Merlins, that's on that light, that's a Merlin on floats. And walking in, a V-twin, show you some of the tools. We've got the metric wrenches here. We've got the coffee, lots of tools, lots of hardware, lots of places for cold beverages, propellers, and well, there's 3 Merlins here and a Luscombe. So this one is going to, I believe, North Carolina. It's got the graphics on this weekend. And it's got the V-twin on. This one going to Georgia is basically done. Just put the graphics on as well. And I'll show you what it really looks like when you want to use the new panel and new engine. We'll get in the cockpit here. First thing we do is master and ignition and one pump or the other pump, it doesn't matter. Fuel is on one wing, and then starts right up. Put on the EPIS. Oops, let's try that again. Not warm. We have the tachometer, the coolant, oil pressure, fuel, volts, amps. In front of aviation, you can scroll through different screens for navigation, for traffic, for weather overlays, for a classic 6-pack. Very smooth engine. This airplane is pretty much finished. Just some fine tuning to do and some fine tuning on the EPIS. So let's talk about the screens and avionics. First off, there's a custom wiring harness that we now finished on the engine. So the engine bolts on. The reduction drive has that new bearing installed. So there's no torsion on the crankshaft from the engine when you tighten the belt. It's all between this bearing here inside the reduction drive and the top bearing. So the engine seems to like that better. We finished the wiring harness, and that's all at the job shop now, getting 20 wiring harnesses made that simply just plug and play exactly the right length, all nice and clean, very little excess wiring at all, if any. As you already know, we have these custom molded silicone coolant tubes, so there's no splicing and patching to do there, and even a custom radiator made. And we've reversed the intake on the throttle body, made room for a torsion bar here, and the oil check is here. Pretty simple on the engine. On the panel, this one's getting ready to go in. You've seen the outside, you've probably seen most of the inside too. We laser cut and then anodize and then laser etch the labels. So it's a really clean, nice panel. and it's quite simple to install everything, because on the back is where it gets really, really interesting. We have a custom fuel circuit board, and these 9-pin and 24-pin connectors plug right into it on this wiring harness. This beautiful Teflon wired, custom-made wiring harness. Everything just plugs and plays. And this is the fuel circuit board, and this is the Avionics circuit board, and they just bolt right on and come through the panel. So you don't have to do all these spade connectors and wiring and cutting, and all the switches just drop right in. You don't have to mount any switches. They're already soldered onto the board. Same with the circuit board. Same with the fuse board, and a little LED light on top. If a fuse blows, that lights up so you know which one blew. Same on the fuel pumps here. Fuse for each fuel pump. So the board just bolts on, and this custom-made wiring harness that comes with it just plugs in as well. And we'll talk just a little bit about where that plugs into next. But first, I want to talk about the fuel. We have one pump or two. You have to have one on. You can have both on. One is plenty, just a backup. And then you can choose left tank or right tank. But what's really unique is if you do choose the center, you're now using the circuit board CPU to auto balance the tanks, which means you've got 6 gallons on each tank, and at a prearranged time, if you put auto time on here, say every 15 minutes, it's going to automatically switch tanks. If you go to auto balance, it's going to measure the fuel in each tank and change at whatever you program into it. And we'll make a video on that, and that way, that when you burn say 1 gallon, and it changes over to the other tank and burns a gallon and changes back. It's all automatic or manual, you can choose. So what happens with all the rest of this wires? We built an Avionics tray. I don't have a panel open. Well, I do. That fits behind the circuit board, that has the transponder, the transceiver, and the UAT for the ADSB, and the sensors, the RDAX and extender. And all that gets mounted on that board with rib nuts. So really, all this just plugs in, and the panel is wired. Plug the wiring harness into the panel. Plug the other end of the wiring harness into the remote components, all labeled, and then wrote the antenna cables for the comm antenna, the GPS antenna, and the other WAS GPS. And then underneath there's a ADSB antenna, a transponder antenna. Plug those in, and you've got this high-end, very sophisticated panel done in less than a day, and very professional, designed and engineered and built by a PhD double E electronic engineering that works on Air Force programs like F-22 rewiring and so forth. So it's really high-end. So that's what we did this week in New Carlisle, and taking a trip down today to Florida to catch up on some Merlin Light there on the one on the floats, and then back next week on Monday to wrap up the build on these 2 airplanes, and nearly done, and start to make deliveries, and then move on to Alabama. So that pretty much wraps up what happened in New Carlisle this week. It's a lot, and it's a lot to show, and it's a lot of accomplishments, and it's taken so long because we keep making it better and better. It's time to stop making it better and deliver. It's the best we can do, and it's industry leading. It's really good stuff, and we'll be flying a lot more Merlins soon. Chipper, Aero Marine.